This building cost $250 million. It's never had a single tenant. And right now it's bent like a banana. There's nothing anyone can do to fix it. Picture a 670-foot glass tower in the middle of Manhattan's financial district, a few blocks from Wall Street, where not one single person has ever lived. Not one. The glass curtain wall is still half installed. Wind moves freely through open floors near the top. It's been standing there, frozen, for years, right in front of the busiest business district on the planet. Nobody can fix it. Nobody can tear it down either. It was supposed to be Seaport residences. 80 luxury condos expected to bring in around $270 million in sales. Instead, developers have already spent roughly $250 million, and not one of those 80 homes has ever been sold. The building has racked up more than 1,000 court filings and over 24 open lawsuits. It's leaning, it's bent, and it's completely stuck. One decision made before a single shovel touched the ground turned this failure permanent. Permanent mathematically, permanent legally, permanent physically. By the end of this video, you'll understand three things: why this tower started leaning while it was still completely empty, why the fix to straighten it out ended up bending it like a banana instead, and why it can neither be finished nor torn down. To understand how you end up with the most expensive empty skyscraper in Manhattan, you have to understand what's underneath it. Lower Manhattan isn't solid ground, it's landfill. Centuries of man-made fill, dirt, gravel, brick, debris, and in some spots the rotted hulls of 17th century ships that were sunk into the river just to claim more land from the water. A shoreline built by hand. So where's the real ground? The bedrock, Manhattan's famous schist, sits nearly 160 feet down. That rock is 400 million years old. It doesn't move. Every stable skyscraper on this stretch of waterfront is anchored straight into it. Every single one, except this one. In 2014, before the main contractor was even hired, a geotechnical report already put the recommendation in writing. This tower needed deep piles driven straight down to bedrock, exactly like the buildings next door. The developer, Fortis Property Group, didn't want to pay for that. When construction started in 2015, they chose something else, a cheaper, faster method called ground improvement. Instead of going down to the rock, try to make the landfill itself strong enough to carry the tower's weight. How much did that shortcut save them? About $6 million. Barely 2% of what they expected to earn from sales. A rounding error on a spreadsheet. That $6 million shortcut is the original sin of the tower at 161 Maiden Lane. Every lawsuit, every empty floor, every piece of graffiti on the facade, every denied permit traces back to that one-line item, to the decision that bedrock was too expensive. We've known how to do this right for decades. You drive massive piles, steel and concrete columns, straight down into the rock. The entire weight of the building rides down through those piles and rests on a 400-million-year-old anchor. It's the safest option. It's also the most expensive. What Fortis chose instead is called jet grouting. Injecting massive volumes of cement slurry at extremely high pressure into the mud, compacting it, trying to convince it to behave like solid rock. Building your house on a cliff of solid stone or on a pile of sand you've glued together and prayed will hold. That treatment only reached about 55 feet down. Bedrock was almost 160 feet below that. The building never touched solid ground. It was floating on soft fill while its neighbors held onto bedrock on either side. The proof came in April 2018. The concrete company brought in to work on the tower inspected it and wrote down exactly what would later end up in a lawsuit. Structural issues, unusual settlement of up to 3 inches, and the building leaning another 3 inches to the north. Why does that number matter so much? The project's structural engineer had only planned for about 2 inches of differential settlement and had already compensated for it in advance by shifting columns on the upper floors. The ground delivered 50% more movement than the building was designed to handle. The consequences were immediate. The glass curtain wall could no longer be installed straight. The elevator rails were no longer staying vertical, and all of this without the weight of a single tenant ever added. The tower was twisting itself out of shape, completely empty. The moment the lien was confirmed, this project entered the strangest phase of its entire collapse. Construction didn't stop. If anything, it got worse. They tried to correct the tilt the only way anyone could think of, pouring the concrete slabs on the upper floors, deliberately crooked in the opposite direction, to act as a counterweight against the sinking below. The result is what makes this tower truly impossible to fix. It's no longer just leaning. It's bent, curved. In one court hearing, the contractor's lawyer told the judge in essence that the building now had the shape of a banana. By 2019, some floors were sitting up to 10 inches out of position. A forensic engineer brought in to assess the damage warned the court of something chilling. The predicted movement limits had already been exceeded. The full weight of the building hadn't even been added yet, and there was a real risk that glass and building material could fall to the street from nearly 60 stories up. What came after wasn't construction anymore. It was a years-long war of attrition. The contractor sued the developer, claiming the foundation work was botched before they ever came on board. The developer refused to take the blame and countersued instead. A second construction company came in to try to finish the job, and within a year they walked off too, unpaid. With no contractor left and no progress being made, the bank that had financed the whole project moved to foreclose. So the developer sued the bank. And in full free fall, they ended up suing even their own lawyers. More than 1,400 court filings, over 24 tangled, interlocking lawsuits, and at the center of all of it, a 670-foot concrete skeleton with graffiti on its face, quietly leaning a little further every time the wind blows. There's something else buried inside this legal chaos that rarely makes it into the headlines. Before any of these lawsuits, a worker died in a fall on this construction site. The concrete subcontractor working on the project at the time later pleaded guilty to manslaughter over that death. Somewhere in the middle of all these shortcuts, a person lost their life on the same job site where a spreadsheet decision was already quietly turning a skyscraper into a permanent legal disaster. So why not just fix it? The engineering solution exists, and it's exactly what should have been done from day one. Drill new piles down to bedrock around the entire perimeter, lift the tower with hydraulic jacks, transfer its weight onto a real foundation. Let's do the math. The developer's own engineer submitted an estimate to the court in 2023. Just finishing the building in its current state, without any structural reinforcement, would cost another $106 million on top of the $250 million already spent. That's more than $350 million total for a tower that's going to go down in history as the banana building. No bank will finance it. No insurer will write a policy for it. Fixing it is economically absurd. Tearing it down is worse. This is a 670-foot reinforced concrete tower leaning on a footprint of less than 5,000 square feet, surrounded by skyscrapers full of people in the most densely populated square mile in the United States. Given its location, you can't simply implode it. It would have to be dismantled piece by piece, floor by floor, at a cost estimated in the hundreds of millions. And before anyone touches a single beam, there are still 24 live lawsuits to resolve first. Saving it costs more than it's worth. Erasing it costs more than the land underneath it. And the legal chaos means neither option is possible on any timeline anyone is willing to accept. Everyone points to the foundation when they talk about the tower at Maiden Lane. But the foundation only did what the spreadsheet told it to do. Someone decided that saving 2% was worth betting a 670-foot building on landfill instead of bedrock. That decision is the actual disaster. The concrete just carried it out. As you're watching this, the lawsuits are still open. No sale has happened. No demolition has been scheduled. The tower is sitting exactly where it was. Standing, empty, leaning, trapped in legal amber, until the day the land underneath it is worth more than the cost of removing what's on top of it. Until then, there it stays, 670 feet of concrete over the East River, waiting for a shovel that may never come. If you're into these kinds of stories, famous buildings, real failures, and why they happen, subscribe